Welcome to the Curator's Choice, where our tagline is Keep Looking Closely and Ye Shall Be Rewarded. I'm Ann Shafer, your resident curator and host. This is episode 2, in which we will look at a set of 4 prints by the sculptor Anish Kapoor that I acquired for the Baltimore Museum of Art in 2015. And we're following this plan for future episodes. We'll talk about a single work on paper, natch, or a set of objects. Sometimes there'll be objects that I acquired for the museum. Sometimes there'll be ones that I pitched and didn't succeed in getting into the collection. And sometimes I reserve the right to talk about a work I just like. I was a museum curator of prints, drawings, and photographs for many years, and now I'm independent. I also want to note my position in all of this. I identify as a cishet white woman, and I use the pronouns she, her. I'm recording this on the land of the Piscataway Conoy people, commonly referred to as Baltimore, Maryland. Know that if you're listening to this as an audio podcast, the images that we talk about will be available to you on the show notes page at the curatorschoicepodcast.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, images of the works will be incorporated into the video. Lucky for you. So let's sit back and take a journey. Today we're looking at a set of 4 etchings. Well, they're Polymer Graviers according to the printers, but we'll get to that in a minute, by Anish Kapoor, called Shadow 5, published by the Paragon Press. Kapoor is an internationally known sculptor who is British with Indian heritage. He was born in Mumbai in 1954 to his mother, who was the Iraqi Jewish daughter of a rabbi who immigrated to India from Baghdad when she was an infant. His father was Hindu. Kapoor moved to London in his late teens to study at the Hornsey College of Art and later at the Chelsea School of Art and Design. Kapoor creates enormous site-specific works that play with dualities of materiality, perception, they're not there, and voids, positive, negative. Of those voids, he has said, that's what I'm interested in. The void, the moment when it isn't a whole. It is a space full of what isn't there. The sculptures are enormous, they're complex in construction, and they're undoubtedly pricey. You probably are familiar with the sculpture by Kapoor that sits in front of the Art Institute of Chicago, or just across the plaza from the Art Institute of Chicago, called the Bean commonly. So, what's an institution to do with limited funds with which to purchase really expensive works of art? What's a curator to do? Well, acquire prints, of course. While everyone agrees having one of Kapoor's major sculptures would be great, or by any leading artist, it's just not feasible for a museum of a certain size that lacks the funds. I think people forget that many artists also make prints and that they are a perfectly reasonable way to get that artist into any collection. And by the way, Kapoor's Wikipedia page doesn't mention any prints at all. So if you have your Wikipedia editor hat on, go fix it. At the IFPDA Print Fair, IFPDA is the International Fine Print Dealers Association. At the fair back in 2012, the Paragon Press debuted Shadow 5. It took me several years to acquire the set in 2015, but the wait was worth it. Shadow 5 is a set of 4 color intaglio prints. They're pretty big at 28 by 38 inches, and hung together, they surely would hold a wall visually. The images are pure abstraction and pure color. Each of the prints has no margins. The image goes all the way to the edges, and each is a deep purple that fades toward the center to a white area that is sort of a rectangular lozenge shaped and looks like a kind of a glow. Kapoor creates objects that play with perception, and with Shadow 5s for prints, each draws you in visually. And you may wonder if we're looking into a void, or does it possibly protrude? Is it glowing from within? That's impossible, right? It's a two-dimensional piece of paper. They remind me of old school televisions when the picture would shrink and disappear when you turned it off. But that thought doesn't really align with the artist's intent. Well, maybe we could draw a line. But that goes to show you, of course, that you can't really control what people will see. The print dealer, Betsy Sr., more accurately identified their connection to minimalism and to the Sanskrit principle of bindu, the point from which creation begins and then returns. Suddenly, we realize that we're not looking at a three-dimensional space. It really isn't a void or a sinking into some white space. And that's exactly what our brains automatically do with images. They look for the three-dimensional space beyond the window that is the edges of the picture, the framework. The lack of white margins helps in this regard. Suddenly, also, we notice a slight moire pattern of interference within the field of color, which snaps us back to understanding that this image is, in fact, two-dimensional. It's playing with that sort of the mind's eye that you think you're looking into a void that's a three-dimensional window into that void, and suddenly you're like, wait, it's a two-dimensional thing. So it's playing with that switch. These are called etchings in most places online, and I've always assumed that they were aquatint, but I completely wrong. That moire pattern is the thing that should have alerted me that they are not aquatint. Moire patterns don't appear unless two regular patterns are overlaid at just the right angle to create the effect. It's impossible to attain with aquatint, whose pattern is just too random to cause a moire pattern. They're super cool. You should go play with some of those animated ones online. They're fun. To make sure I understood, I checked in with Thumbprint Press, the shop that printed these for Paragon Press, who is the publisher. The director of Thumb can't get that out. The director of Thumbprint Press, Peter Kozowitz, confirmed that what Thumbprint itself calls Polymer Gravier. Sometimes different shops call things slightly different things and really are talking about the same thing. So you have to kind of know what you're dealing with. Thumbprint describes Polymer Gravier as this. Instead of etching an image onto copper plates using acid, the image is exposed onto a light-sensitive polymer plate in the same way as with a photo etching, using a positive and an ultraviolet light. Again, the positive can be created by hand. It could be a hand-drawn image, or it could be generated in a computer and be photographic. The great advantage of the polymer gravier process using a polymer, which is a plastic plate basically, is that it is capable of carrying a continuous tone better than the copper is, that you can get all of the subtle ranges of gray between the black and the white, or in this case, the purple. So, like those Allison Schatz prints we talked about in another episode, these involve an image on a plastic sheet, and it's at the positive this time, and it's exposed to a photo emulsion coated plate. Where the clear or light areas allow the UV light through, the emulsion will harden and act as a resist. And where the dark areas block the light, the soft emulsion will wash away. Pete, the director of Thumbprint, reports that he initially had a number of discussions with Anish Kapoor about using different shapes or forms to explore using two plates in two colors for each of these prints. The shapes were made using an Illustrator program on the computer and were quite graphic. I can only imagine what those images, the vector images, looked like in the end. However, when the files were made into films to produce on the polymer plates, they came back with all sorts of organic marks, which were accidental and invisible on the films, meaning they became obvious only once the plates were processed. And Anish liked this, he went with it. The tones on the plates are modulated by a very fine halftone screen. So when they printed two plates with different colors, a moire pattern emerged. What really fascinated Pete was that you could read how the plates had been printed because of the distortion of the damp paper affecting the change in the moire across the image, so that the whole process of printing it was the thing that produces moire that told you that there was some distortion that had occurred. What started as a digital file ended up as an organic, fascinating interplay of colors that couldn't be produced in any other way. And thanks to Pete for sending that over. I really appreciate it. They're confusing. For me, this just adds another layer of translation and duality. That you've got the two-dimensional image that morphs into a three-dimensional space visually for your brain, the push-pull of the convex and the concave void, and you've got the moire pattern snapping you back to the two-dimensional realization. You've got the flush edges confusing the 3D, 2D conundrum. And you've got this computer generated image shifting and changing organically because of the process. Plus, they hold the wall and they're just plain gorgeous and mesmerizing. It's a win-win all around. Okay, I've said enough things about these beautiful Kapoor prints. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Curator's Choice podcast. I hope this gives you a sense of my thinking as I found, proposed, and acquired Anish Kapoor's prints for the Baltimore Museum of Art's collection. Many thanks to Paragon Press for sharing the high-res images of the prints, and to Anish Kapoor for making them in the first place. As always, I welcome your thoughts and questions. Send them on in, and do us a favor, tell your friends about the podcast. It will really help us spread the word. The Curator's Choice is written and produced by me, Ann Shafer. Special thanks to Anish Kapoor for inspiring this episode, and to Michael Diamond for the use of his original music. Until next time, keep looking closely and ye shall be rewarded. See you next time.